Welcome back, ladies and gentlemen. Glad to have you. This week we are loaded. I mean loaded. We've got an ex-pro and one of my favorite alumni of all time, as well as, of course, Michael Melnik. Mike's going to speak to us about the energy source creativity, which I don't know about you guys, but I don't have a creative bone in my body. So it is not hard for me to think and want and try to be more creative, but usually it's to no avail. Shane Justis is with us this week. What an outstanding young fella he is. And he talks about his career here at Towson and as well as in professional baseball. And then one of my favorites, Scotty Hargest, way back from the 70s, not trying to date him or anything, but he was on the first Towson team to make it to an NCAA regional, albeit Division II, but nonetheless a regional. I know what that's like. I coached at Division II as well. Good baseball. Outstanding play. He talks a little bit about his career here at Towson and then what has happened to him since. All those guys, stay tuned. We'll be right back after this word.
Hey, well, it looks like we've got a new sponsor, and the Jungle Cat would like to thank the fine team at Capital Seaboard, the top distributor of fresh produce and seafood in the Mid-Atlantic region. Capital services the top chefs in restaurants, hotels, caterers, and kitchens from Philly to Richmond. They're a chef-driven, highest in quality company, proudly serving the region with over 90 vehicles delivering 6 days a week. And thanks very much for that sample of lump crab meat. Can't wait to dive into that after tonight's show. What do you think, Will? You ready to try some?
I'm ready.
Great. Well, thanks again to the people at Capital Seaboard for their fine and continued sponsorship.
All right. So this week, starting on Tuesday, a 9-6 win over George Washington. How are things at George Washington for you?
Well, I'll tell you what, Will, we actually played what I would consider to be a complete game. We pitched it well, we hit it well, we fielded it well, and we just continued to battle from the first pitch to the last pitch. And it was evident of the way we can play. We, got behind a little bit and then came roaring back. We did exactly what we talked about in the very beginning of the season. We talked about staying in it and winning the middle of the game in 4th, 5th, and 6th innings. When teams sometimes let down, we were to pounce on them. And finally, we did that. We scored 2-3-3, I believe, and then had one run in the bottom of the 8th. So, it was great. It was a morale booster. I thought we would take that and run with it on our way down to William and Mary to, attack those guys for the second conference series. But I'm sure you're going to ask me the question, what happened next?
Yes, that was definitely going to be my next question.
We'll go ahead and ask it.
So what happened next?
Well, we ran into a pretty good William and Mary team. Not that we ever underestimate anybody, but I just wasn't sure that they were that sound. And they are. They're a tough group from the offensive perspective. They just don't swing and miss. They put balls in play. Not rocket shots. I mean, they had their share of rocket shots, but they 17 hot ground balls that just found their way to the outfield, just beyond the reach of our infielders. A couple bloops here, a couple bloops there. Next thing you know, they got 8 runs on the board. We're like, what's happening? It's not very far away. It's very reminiscent of what we used to do to people last year with a bunt here, a bunt there, a steal here, a steal there. And the next thing you know, we've got 3 runs, you've got 1, which we have contemplated going back to that style of baseball. But to do that, you've got to have accomplished bunters, and things of that nature, which right now it doesn't seem like we can get a bunt down to save our life. So that Friday game kind of got away from us, and it got away from us early. I don't know if you watched it or not, but it was a walk, a hit, a bunt, and Nate Nabholz, just lost the grip of the baseball and airmailed it into the stands. And we just didn't recover from that. Then we had a little rain delay, and the next thing you know, they put the ball in play a couple of times, and throwing a wet ball sometimes a lot like throwing a snowball. So you get some velo behind it, but you don't really know where it's going all the time. And we had a couple snowball fights in a couple innings, and the next thing you know, we were down big. So we all own that. That was an embarrassment, and we got to get better. That's it. And then we came back out ready to go on Saturday, but so were they. Nick Romanjulu has been really throwing the ball well for us, and he brought his game again. And they did what I just said they did. A couple of hits here and a couple of hits there. Next thing you know, you're down 5, and you're like, how in the world did that happen? And then we go first and second and a line drive, or first and second and a double off, and it just did not happen for us. So a tribute to them. They're pitching by committee, which, if anybody knows hitting, it's all about timing, and you hope you face a guy 1 or 2 times. They're running them out there every 3 innings or every 4 innings, not to give us any good, strong looks, and it's working for them. It really is. But that's a testimony to the depth that they've got. When you can run 12 pitchers across a 3-game set, that's pretty deep. And we're not there yet. We just don't have that talent pool yet. And they're hitting. They're doing extremely well with that. And they played excellent defense. Once again, their third baseman, Cole Ragone, he just had put on a clinic. Third base, man. He was tough all weekend. Anything we hit, he gobbled up. Shortstop, Ben Williamson, same thing, And then you got the kid in center field. I can't think of his name right now, but Jack Cohn, he started on the mound Friday night and then played center field for the next 2 days. So, that's pretty athletic. You know what I'm saying? That's pretty athletic. And so we're talking about a pretty good group. And they went to the tournament with us last year and they beat us. They made a nice little run themselves. So they're following up with another good run. And, it looks pretty good for them right now.
I agree. They are, I believe, tied for second, or no, they are tied for first in the CAA rankings with the College of Charleston. But I believe they do also have a tough schedule coming up ahead. As so does Towson as well, going more into conference play with a conference series against UNCW this weekend, right?
Yeah, and if we could have our druthers, we'd rather be playing them here. They don't play as well away as they do at home. They protect that territory pretty good down there, and they're loaded. They're Friday night. We're going to be facing a kid, RJ Sales, that's 95, freshman, turned down the draft to go to UNCW to improve his draft slot, and he probably will. Last time we saw 95, we didn't see 95 at LSU. We saw 95 at Miami, which happens to be the second-ranked team in the country right now. So we got our hands full, and been spending a little bit of time with some guys in a cage already this week, and that's kind of fun, getting them geared back up and confident again. It's a long season, and just to borrow a phrase from somebody, I don't know exactly the author, but for us, we have to start thinking that the season starts tomorrow, and that's it, and play that day. And then once that game is over, regardless, win, lose, or draw, it doesn't matter. It does not matter. Season starts again the next day, and then the next day, and continue to grind one day at a time. That's the only way you come out of this. You can't put 5 games together until you win the first one. So we understand that, but we're in search of back-to-back good games. So I think the guys are hungry. We're going to find out today at practice and kind of see where their mentality is, and then we'll kind of go from there. But we'll be testing them all week. We'll be ready to go, and we'll see what the baseball gods have for us, or in store for us. We need a little bit of that horseshoe luck every now and then. We've hit some bullets at people, and they've made the play, and it's sometimes it can be disheartening to watch a exit velocity 117 miles an hour get caught and doubled off the guy at first because he didn't have a chance to even get back. You know, I mean, that's what happened to us down there. So, I mean, we've been snake bit a little bit, but we know it. We got to get better. And I told the guys on Sunday, I said, hey, got to give credit where credit's due. William and Mary's pretty good, or they wouldn't be 7-2 and having beat Northeastern 2 out of 3. And, you know, so you can't take anything away from these guys. They're pretty doggone good. And they outplayed us offensively, defensively, pitching, and coaching. So there you go. We'll see what we do against Wilmington this week. Ladies and gentlemen, as we always do, we welcome back Michael Melnik to discuss another important energy source. This week's topic is going to be creativity. And I don't know about you guys, but I was always amazed at my late wife's ability to bring creativity into everything that we would do. You know, she always was able to make dinner more than just tuna fish casserole. It was just incredible. You know, I knew what we were having, but for some reason, it would just be, sky high when it was all said and done. And she could do that with anything. She put a smile on everybody's face. I think it's an inherent trait that not all of us share. I mean, I don't have a creative bone in my body, so I have to really, really work at this to make heads or tails of it, Michael. So why is creativity such a hard thing to either overcome or bring out in people or just use?
Yeah. So first of all, greetings, everyone. Matthew, thanks again for this opportunity. Creativity is one of those interesting ones because when we think about creativity, a lot of times we think about artists and musicians and people like that. And my wife is always saying, I'm not creative at all, right? Most people are very self-deprecating, or a lot of people are self-deprecating about their own level of creativity. And then I'll watch her plan a trip for us. And I'm like, oh my gosh, you know, I mean, she's on this website and that website. And if I put this flight with this, and then now it's only 50% of the cost or whatever. And I'm like, sweetheart, I hate to tell you, but that's actually the definition of creativity. It may not be something we want to put up on the wall, but so I'm going to say the same thing to you, Matthew. I think there are aspects of creativity that somebody from the outside might look at it and go, I never would have thought of doing it that way, or setting up a practice that way, or reaching my team that way, or whatever it might be. So you might surprise yourself. So with that being said, though, the reason that creativity is so important, it's one of those energy sources where, again, it's not the in-your-face wreck a plan or a program type of energy source, but I liken it this way. If you think about a balloon, and in it you've got enough air to give it the shape of a balloon. So you've got your commitment and your communication and consistency and accountability, and you've got some of those energy sources in there. So you've got a decent balloon, but you notice some wrinkles in it. And the reason is the balloon isn't completely filled. You haven't really taken full advantage of the full shape of it. And creativity is that piece that just puts in that extra puff that now goes, okay, now we've got everything. It just is, it's a great embellishment to what you're doing. So if you think about a practice that you're having, where maybe it's just a little bit flat, and you throw in this new exercise, or you throw in this new, okay, now we're going to do an interesting take on a game situation, and all of a sudden you see the eyes open up, and you see the people just really getting more engaged, or they're laughing, or they're talking more, or doing whatever. By adding that energy source to it, you've taken what was probably pretty good, and you've actually bumped it up a notch. And that's what happens with creativity. It's the eye-opening, energy-evoking kind of the best way I can explain it is it just bumps up the energy a notch for what you're trying to do.
Well, and I think I subscribe to that here because I know the redundancy that happens in baseball can actually become super, super boring, you know, and God love us, it's chess on spikes, basically, you know, and we put so many people to sleep when they watch baseball games that it's almost a crying sin. So when we plan a practice here, having worked with you and worked and seen you in action, creativity does strike a good chord with me. And I rely on our coaching staff to actually help prepare that practice so that in the 2 hours and 45 minutes or the 2 hours and 30 minutes or the 3 hours that we get with these young men, we do put as much air in that balloon as we possibly can. And we have you to thank for it. Creativity is a major weapon for us. Otherwise, it stagnates. It just does. And we become stagnant. And I don't think anything happens good when you've done something over and over and over. You got to put some newness into it. And I would say that would also work for relationships, would it not?
It's essential for relationships. I think that's one of the things that happens to them is it just feels like, didn't we do this yesterday? And didn't we do this 10 years ago? And aren't we having the same conversation and the same dinner and the same, so that surprise is beautiful. Now, here's the wonderful thing about it. When you do that, it's not only that you're kind of filling the balloon, but from the other person's standpoint. So it could be your players at a practice, it could be a spouse or a significant other in a relationship, is they can't help but look at you, the person that's being creative, and go, they would only do this if they thought it was important to me. They would only do this if they thought it had value. So it energizes the other person, not only from the standpoint of waking them up a little bit, but there is this sense of feeling respected, feeling, that I matter in this equation, or the person wouldn't have gone the extra steps to do that. So whether looking at their coach and going, wow, that was really fun. Did it take energy on your part to think through some of these, creative ways to do it? Absolutely. And that's typically recognized by the recipient of the creativity. Now, one of the things I want to mention in this that's really important is that when I talk to people, particularly that go, oh man, creativity, I am just not creative at all. It's not the being creative that matters. It's the recognizing creativity as an important energy source that matters, because you don't have to come up with the creative ideas yourself, but you're going to come up with none if you don't think creativity matters. Because I guarantee you right now, I bet you I could go to Google and I could say creative baseball practice strategies. And I'll bet you there's not going to be less than 1 million Google responses that are going to come up. And it's not saying you need to do exactly what the responses say, but you might read through 1 or 2 or 3 or 4 or 10 and go, ooh, I could take a little piece of that. That could be cool. Or, ooh, I love that idea, but I would put this twist on it. And all of a sudden, you are going to look like a creative genius now out on the field.
Thank God we've got Google.
Yeah, no kidding. No kidding. Oh.
We have done some stuff that, I think has been creative, i.e. we've had competition Sundays, and whatever the flavor of sport was, we tried it. In other words, we would take a fungo baseball bat and a baseball, and there was a competition of how close could you putt the baseball across the dirt to get to second base. And a hitter had a pitcher as a partner, and we would do things like that. And your reward would be the winners, the losers would carry your bags on travel days. So it was kind of neat. I kind of like that one. And, it kind of got the competition juices flowing, or competitive juices flowing again on our team. So we've been able to kind of share that from within. I think of my son when I think of relationships, and, I used it to get out of the doghouse. He used it to build his love for his wife. He would call it Fresh Cut Fridays. So he would bring a lovely bouquet home for his lovely wife on Fridays. And I'd say, that's pretty creative there, dude. That you're going to get a leg up on that one. You might even get out of jail free card for Fresh Cut Fridays. So
beautiful
creative ideas that have happened in the Tyner household, but can't stress it enough. What a beautiful source.
Well, here's the other thing about creativity that I think in your world particularly is important, because I'm trying to remember if it was football players, but there was a coach that was encouraging their players to take up ballet, because I mean it was for flexibility, it was for movement patterns, because everything else was either just going forward or vertical or whatever, and ballet was, they're trying to take their wide receivers and catch passes in these. If you watch some of these wide receivers, once they take off and are in the air, they look a lot like ballet dancers, right? If they have the
Right.
flexibility and that move has been practiced. But think about the energy sources that were required there, because certainly it required flexibility. And I don't mean physical flexibility, but the flexibility of both the coach and the player to say, I think we need to step out of the box that we're used to being in, and we need to look at different ways of getting talent and skill. But all of a sudden now the body's going, okay, because I was willing to be creative, now I can go into the air to catch a pass. And this creativity of how I move my body is now second nature to me. So in your world, the idea of, being able to throw ambidextrous with both hands, because all of a sudden, my glove got stuck here or this happened or whatever. And now I'm in a position I've never been in. I caught a grounder at third base, but I'm on my knees. Can I throw from my knees? All of those things are a creative, or listening to a baseball game where you actually see a double steal, or that wasn't always part of the game, or stealing home wasn't always part of the game. What is that? That was creativity, that because the other teams had not practiced either doing those things or practiced defending those things, they were successful. The first baseman acting like he's thrown the ball back to the pitcher, and then the base runner steps off first base, and then they tag him out. Well, there was a period of time where that had never been done. And somebody thought, I have an idea. So you had to be flexible, you had to be, practice it. All of those things are not just about making it more fun and more engaging. They're actually about skill sets and developing, flexibility in different game situations that maybe you hadn't practiced before.
Absolutely. Absolutely. I know that we do I call them unique and creative things. What you speak of is what we call bilateral training, where we will have people try to swing the bat a little bit left-handed just to kind of get a different feel or flow of what the other side is doing, so that maybe when you switch back, then the more dominant side now has had a little bit of breather from the brain, and now basically just reacts, and so that we can maybe become a little quicker, so
Absolutely. Well, and
interesting concept.
yeah, I love golf, as you know. I'm not terribly good at it, but I love it. And I watch these videos, and one of the main things I'm seeing in them is they're saying, if you keep practicing the way you currently play, you're not going to get any better. You're just doing more of what you already do. And if you don't get creative about how you practice, you're not going to get better. And I think that that's true in golf. That's true in our relationship. If I keep doing my relationship just more and louder of what I'm already doing, I'm going to be in the same relationship that looks the same, versus, okay, let's get creative.
If you're lucky.
If you're lucky, right? If
you're-
the person you're in the relationship with is willing to sit through the practice, but it's baby steps for sure.
Absolutely. Absolutely. I think that creative certainly brings a lot of spice back into a practice. It brings a lot of spice back into a professional atmosphere, and it certainly brings a lot of spice back into your personal relationships, not just with your wife. I mean, son, daughter, cousins, aunts, uncles, everything. I mean, it really, it does a body good when you step outside of your comfort zone and you become a little more creative. And maybe it's that call to your aunt you haven't talked to in months, or the friend you haven't reached out to in months, and you say hi and do some creative things. And I like it. I like it a lot. It's a great energy source, and one that is as important and to the core of me and my development that the majority of the other ones are as well.
Yeah, and that's why I tell people to just have the list of the energy sources somewhere in your world, in your visual field, in your office, on the desk, on the wall somewhere. Maybe it's on a little card in your wallet, not to haunt you, but to just periodically, for those things that we all really want to do well, to just go back and look at it periodically. And probably what's going to pop out are some of the ones you've been ignoring. And just going, you know what? We haven't crashed and burned. We are not falling apart. But I think to keep that from happening, maybe just a little injection of some respect or some flexibility or some creativity or some communication isn't going to hurt anything for sure, and probably will help.
Well, here's our deal. Will has got to take a week off. He's got some projects at school that he's got to do. So we're going to take a week off from the podcast, and we will jump back in on the week of April 24th. We'll reconnect with Michael, and we will be getting closer and closer to having covered all 10 of the energy sources. That week that we get back, we will touch on inclusion. And that is that's a source that's going to take a little bit of time. So Mike, do some homework, get ready to go. But until we talk again, be safe and be good, and do some good. All right.
That sounds awesome. Will, you take care. And Matthew, thanks again for the opportunity. And everybody else, thanks for listening.
Remember, fresh cut flowers on Fridays. Great way to become creative. Just throw that one out there for all of us guys that need a little bit of help every now and then. Michael, be good. Love you. You know that, brother. Always good.
Back at you, Matthew. Take care, dude.
Talk to you. Bye-bye.
We'll be back with you in just a second, but right now, a little word from our sponsor. This segment's brought to you by Towson alum Chris Russ, your real estate specialist. You can find Chris at chrisruss.com or call him at 410-908-7723. Chris specializes and takes great pride in helping others relocate to new towns, as he once did over a dozen times while pursuing his dream to play Major League Baseball with the Texas Rangers. With many buyers flooding the area due to the great schools, strong job economy, and a robust defense industry, Chris has teamed up with lenders that specialize in VA loans and a home inspector that served our military proudly. Whether you are looking to commute to Howard County, Fort Meade, Baltimore, Bethesda, or Washington, D.C., Chris is familiar with the communities and the commuter locations that will serve you best. That's Chris Russ at chrisruss.com, 410-908-7723. Another proud TU alum. That's Chris Russ at chrisruss.com, your real estate specialist. Ladies and gentlemen, my next guest is an alumni from Towson. Super guy, one that you'd love to be around. I can see why his teams were so successful. He just brings a certain amount of energy that is very passionate, and just seems to be that guy, you know. So very successful in his life now and doing what he's doing, as well personally. Shane Justis is our next guest, 2005 graduate from Towson, born and raised in Maryland, born in Bel Air, lives in Falston now. Shane, welcome to the show.
Hey, thanks for having me. Appreciate the opportunity to be on your guys' first annual podcast, right? This is your first year.
Yeah, exactly. And we've had a couple alumni, but maybe not one as heralded as you. Casper has been on. That was a former teammate of yours, correct?
Yeah, no, Casper and I definitely teammates. He got drafted the same year I did in 05. And he was 1 year younger than me. So yes, we were able to play together for three seasons at Towson.
If you look back at that time, you two being drafted in the same year, think now about the 1-2 punch that you guys were capable of inflicting way back then, and talk to me about it.
Yeah, so we came off my junior year, his sophomore year, really struggling. Like, we had high expectations, a great senior class, and it just didn't come together. So my senior year, his junior year, we just took a different philosophy and approach of, being ourselves, coming to the field, having fun, keeping it simple. And we added a great transfer from Maryland, Jason Maxey, with a core group of other guys that have been playing together for years, and it just meshed. The attitude and the positive energy and the fun meshed, and I think we started the season average, maybe 500, and then halfway through we just hit a run, and I think led the country in home runs that year, and just really went on a great run. And it started with that philosophy and the positive energy and just going out and enjoying the game. So, it wasn't just me and him by any means. It was a whole team of awesome guys that just contributed to the success of a great season.
If you look back on that time and you were happening to do it through the media guides, you would see your name, Maxey, Wells, all throughout that media guide. You guys put together some serious careers for yourself. Obviously, the one that stood out to me the most was 85 hits in a season, less than 60 games.
Yeah, no, it's probably not enough. I was trying to get 100, honestly. But for me that season, it was kind of a redemption year. My junior year, I got in my own head. There was some buzz in my own head, probably not real significant buzz, that I was a draftable player. And baseball's a mental game. So I was, I had a challenging year that junior year. But then just came with this new approach my senior year. And a big part of it was just enjoying the game, being myself, being comfortable, having that passion that I've always had. And, it contributed to good success, getting a lot of base hits, driving some balls. And then the ability to get on base and create havoc was what I loved to do. And that's why the senior year came together. I think I had close to 30 stolen bases. And again, I probably would have liked to have 40 or 50, but it came together nicely that senior year.
3 years in a row, you led the team in stolen bases. That's quite an accomplishment for anybody. Would you have said that you are one of the fastest guys you know, or you were quick, or you just had the uncanny ability to read a pitcher's move, or maybe all of them?
No, I would say I was fast. I was definitely fast. So that was you have to have a tool that stands out, and my speed allowed me to get attention, I think, and allowed me to stand out. But a lot of it was instincts too. You have to have the instinct to, push the envelope, and I enjoyed creating havoc, making the pitcher anxious, helping hopefully the batter that's up get a good pitch to hit, or even making the catcher anxious. Definitely speed, definitely some instinctual things, and then reading pitchers and those more technical side. I wish I would have known more of, because I think I could have had even greater success stealing, and those things came a little later when I got into pro ball.
Absolutely, and let's go there next. But before I do that, I just want to say you were second team all conference in 2005, right?
Yes, 2005, and if I remember correctly, 03, and then my 04 year I had a difficult year, but those challenges and adversity helped push me even further forward. So I wouldn't change it for anything.
Absolutely. So in 2005, you're getting ready to wrap up your Towson career, and you get the phone call from the LA Dodgers, drafted in the 21st round. Walk us through that.
Yeah, that's a fun story. I don't consider myself old, but I guess I'm getting older. And in 05, we still had dial-up internet, and I'm sitting at the library in Harford County, Maryland. I think I had dial-up, but I'm just a guy that likes to kind of isolate, get to myself. So I'm actually in the library watching that little ticker, and I saw myself get drafted. It was the second day of the draft. I was hopeful the first day would come through, and it didn't. So I was a little discouraged, but still had high expectations and hopes that it would come together. And then, when I saw my name come across that ticker, which nowadays it would have been lightning fast, then it was probably slow, but with the dial up. But just an exciting moment, gratification. But it wasn't my end goal. My end goal was to get to the big leagues. I just wanted the opportunity to get a chance, and then see where I could take it from there. So definitely exciting, but it was like the start of a longer journey that I anticipated in my brain.
Absolutely. So we might say that you keep the eye on the prize, I think is what it was. And your prize was a Major League Baseball appearance and contract and experience. So walk me through your minor leagues. Talk to us about it.
Yeah, the minor leagues, you don't know what to expect. I mean, nobody knows until they're in it. I get to short season A-ball in Ogden, Utah. Lived with a host family, traveled on long bus rides throughout, the Northwest, I guess. And looking back, that was maybe one of my most fun seasons, because just having the opportunity to be in a part of the country that most people, from the East Coast wouldn't experience, going through Utah and Colorado and Wyoming and Minnesota. But what helped me there, I wasn't starting right away. We had some big, prospects that came onto that team, some young signed players from the Dominican Republic. But when I got an opportunity, I made the best of it. So I made sure I was prepared and focused. And fortunately, some of those times that season were in front of some rovers and traveling coaches that got to see me get on the field, play multiple positions, and have success. And then that got me an invite to fall camp, which not a select few, but definitely a lesser amount of players get invited to. And I had great success there. And then my first full spring training came, and I was anticipating, the director said maybe you'll start in high A. So you're thinking that, but that first year, there's only so many limited spots on a roster. And I actually went into short season, or not even short season, extended spring training. So that was a disappointing moment, I would say. And I questioned if baseball was what I wanted to continue. But the organization did say, give us 2 weeks, let's see how things pan out. And it actually worked out. I went into low A ball, didn't start again, but had opportunity. And when I had those opportunities, I made the best of it. Then went to high A ball towards the end of the year, and finished that year hitting roughly 300, and I think maybe close to 7, 8, 10 home runs with limited at-bats. So it was just a matter of getting an opportunity and then making the best of those chances, being prepared, playing multiple positions. And then the next year started in Double A, and then got Rule 5 to the Brewers. And that's where I ended up with the Huntsville Stars in Alabama, and had an all-star season, and really had a great experience with a veteran group of players in the Brewers organization.
So from there, where'd you go?
Well, that's where, after 5 years, I went back to spring training and had my best year ever. And it was just a matter of numbers game, I would say, and maybe hitting my plateau. I'll never make excuses. I did the best I could. You need a little break here and there. They had 2 or 3 big prospects coming up, Brett Laurie being one of them, and there was limited spots, so it was either go back to Double A. And my mindset at that time was I didn't want to repeat a level. I wanted to continue to progress. I didn't have a goal to be, when I started, to be in the minor leagues and a career minor leaguer. Not that there's anything wrong with that, but I wanted to continue to progress. And when I saw that wasn't probably going to happen, it was time to make a decision. I was married. I just got married at the time, and that was probably the hardest decision, of my life.
Well, it definitely goes without saying it's not an easy one. I too had to make that decision in regarding injury or continue to play, or and it's not. It's first off, the game is not for the meek, and then when you become a professional, you really find out that it's not for the mild either. I was thinking about your saying, I got a chance to travel all over Wyoming and Colorado, East Coast guy, doing all this out in the Northwest. And I was sitting there going, boy, I bet if you took a panel of 100 East Coasters, 99 of them would go, no way. I don't even, no thanks. I'm fine right here. So you looked at it as just an eye-opening experience, and you had a lot of fun with it. But what people don't understand is that's 13-hour bus rides, and then you go lay your head down on a pillow, and it's somebody, shakes you at 2:30 in the afternoon, and you go, oh my gosh, I got a game at 7, and it's right back to the grind. And I know all of us want to play professional baseball, and then with hopes of getting to the big leagues, but my goodness, it's tougher than it looks, and it'll wear you out. So then, you finally meet your wife, and tell us a little bit about that story. I got to cheat, folks. I've already heard this, but I had heard through a rumor that somebody said, yeah, ask Shane how he met his wife. And I was like, oh, okay. So that's what we're going to do now. Listen to this one, folks.
No, I met my wife. I've known her for pre-college years, but John Caslin was a great pitcher at Towson. He had a great career, and he's 2 or 3 years older than me. So when I was getting recruited, and I was fortunate to get some recruits and go on some visits, and Towson just being local, having the ability to potentially start as a freshman was a real intriguing opportunity. And John, actually being local to Harford County, was my campus visit, I guess, guide. And maybe as a high schooler, you anticipate that's going to be some fun night out party. And I think we went to Bill Bateman's, had a burger, hung out a little bit. And then, stayed at the Marriott right in Towson there. But long story short, I ended up going to Towson, and Julie is John's sister. She went there, and we had a class her freshman year, my sophomore year. And then 2 years later, she actually called me. I will say, she probably doesn't want me to announce that to the public, but I'm in summer ball in Savannah, in the Susquehanna League in Virginia, and she called me my junior year and her sophomore, and then we ended up my senior year, her junior, dating, and long story short, married 13 years, 3 kids, and live in Harford County, right near our family and friends. So couldn't ask for anything better. It's been a good experience for sure.
What a beautiful life, and in a sense, you have Towson to thank for that.
I do. I was thinking about it maybe today or yesterday. I remember UVA called me, and looking back, I'm like, in 05 with UVA, University of Virginia, would that have been a different experience or not? But I don't look back. I mean, I really look forward, and if I changed the direction of my choices, it wouldn't have led me to where I am today. So forward looking always, and it was everything happened perfectly. Can't complain.
Well, big guy, I can't thank you enough for taking the time out of your day to come and share some of your stories with us and our listeners. And in keeping with that sentiment, not looking back, looking forward, I hope that you'll consider coming back on maybe later when these Tigers get ready to win this conference championship this year. All right?
Yeah, I'd love to come back, and I've been following you guys. You guys had a tough early schedule, which should set you up for great success. I see Maryland. You play Maryland this week, and then you got a conference. Very challenging conference, but it should set you guys up for success. And I'm rooting you guys on. So I look forward to coming out and bringing the kids out to watch you guys win.
Fantastic, young man. Thank you so much for joining us, ladies and gentlemen. Shane Justis, really appreciate it. Thanks again, and we'll catch up again soon. All right?
Great. Thank you.
All right. Be good. Bye-bye.
Bye.
We'll be back with you in just a second, but right now, a little word from our sponsor. Hey, Will, we picked up another sponsor tonight.
All right, who is it?
Advanced Collision in Beltsville, Maryland. Serving cars, buses, fleets, RV, recreational vehicles, and emergency vehicles. They upfit in the Washington, D.C. and the Baltimore areas. Advanced Collision LLC excels at providing paint, dent repair, and auto body work services for your automobile. They use the best products available today for your automobile, and they only use certified, skilled, highly trained technicians backed by state-of-the-art equipment on your repair. And for a couple months, the Jungle Cat and his family kept those techs in business. They offer custom paint and design, professional body work, and repair services for all types of cars, trucks, buses, and recreational vehicles. So if you have a vehicle that needs repaired, do what the Jungle Cat does. Call 301-595-9377 to schedule an appointment. Advanced Collision, your best bet when it comes to automotive repair. Ladies and gentlemen, my next guest has become a very personal friend to me. He's been the conduit from the university to me. He's just an outstanding individual, a phenomenal businessman, a great father. He bleeds black and gold. He's a Towson Tiger through and through. Put your hands together for Scotty Hargest. How you doing, Scott? How are you?
Coach, I'm doing great. Great to hear from you.
Well, I'll tell you what. I know you were somewhat. What word am I looking for? Didn't really want to come on, and I said, "Come on now." And then you finally succumbed to the pressure. And I'm going to tell the story. When I looked at trying to become the head baseball coach here at Towson, the only person that I knew in Towson, other than the baseball playing Oriole buddies of mine that had recommended the university to me, was Brian Sheehan. And you and Brian go way back. And
Yep.
I think he did an unbelievable job on selling you on me. And then you had to somehow advocate for me to get an interview. And for that, I can't thank you enough, because I found a great home here at Towson University, and I really kind of think I have you to thank for that. Wouldn't you kind of agree?
Well, you sold yourself for sure. But I do remember Brian giving me that call, and I said, well, his nickname is Coach because he coached down at, I believe, Richmond after he got hurt for basketball. And, he gave me the ins and outs of Coach Tyner, and great guy, blah, blah, the history. And I said, listen, I'll be honest with you, I'm just not going to blanket, give him a recommendation. I've got to talk to him. I said, because I'm just not going to do it unless I have a chance to talk to him and understand what he's all about. And if we can arrange that, it would be great. Well, you had you had me at a low. After about 3 minutes of talking to you on the phone, you had more energy than I did. I mean, you were incredible.
Wow.
And I remember saying, because I said, Coach, I said, I'm going to tell you, I think one of the things you're going to have to fight is your age. And you said, Scott, I'm going to tell you this right now. There's nobody that's going to outwork me. I don't have kids to worry about. I don't have this, I am going to outwork, and I am going to make sure that we do something on that field. And then I'm like, well, how can I not push you through? And I'll be honest with you, I mean, there were some great talented that we interviewed, but you really did stand hands above. I remember the conversation with BJ Surhoff and yourself.
Mm-hmm.
Right?
Yeah.
I didn't even understand what you guys were talking about. It was so high level. It was great. I mean, it was great. I mean, the rest of the people on the committee thought it was just a great matchup, and thank goodness you're here.
Well, thank you very much. Now let's get into you, buddy. So I was very serious, ladies and gentlemen, when I say you eat and sleep, drink, and you bleed black and gold. And tell us about your childhood. You were born in Baltimore but moved around a little bit?
Yeah, so my dad, my mom and dad, they had 5 kids by the time they were 27, 28 years old. So my dad worked for W.R. Grace, which is a big Baltimore company. And so we lived in Baltimore. We moved to Atlanta for 6 months, New Jersey for a year and a half. And that was because he was working out of the city, so he wasn't sure how to attack the city, whether from the island or New Jersey. And then after that, we moved down to Long Island, Huntington, Long Island, and that's how he was commuting to the city every day, working for selling for W.R. Grace. And then really that's where I grew up, is up in Huntington, Long Island. That's where, we played our baseball, I played football, basketball, baseball and stuff. And Huntington was a beautiful town to grow up on. It's on the North Shore, near Oyster Bay and Cold Spring Harbor. All my friends had Boston Whalers and their parents had Chris Crafts, and it was just a great place to grow up. But when my father set me aside and said, hey, Scott, we're going to be moving back to Baltimore, he goes, you're the one I'm worried about, because I was going into my senior year. And I'm like, Dad, hey, whatever works for you, I can handle it. So it ended up being, actually, my grandparents both lived in Baltimore, so going back to Baltimore was not like foreign for us. It was great to, see my grandparents on a daily basis or, weekly basis, and moved back to Huntington, to Towson High School. I was working out. I was a quarterback on football, and so I was working out with the football team up in Huntington, and came down to Towson High School and did not know anything about Baltimore County football at the time. And my brother, who was a sophomore, him and I go walking into the football coach. We gave him a letter from our football coach, and we were just talking about different things, what type of offenses they run and such. And I asked the coach, I said, hey, can we borrow a football over the weekend? Because we use a football up in Long Island. It's called an SP7, and, not sure what footballs you guys use. And he goes, sure. He goes, Coach Jeff, get Scott a football out of that barrel. So he throws me the football, and it's got shoelaces in it, and it's as bald as bald as my head is right now. And I looked at my brother, and I'm like, oops, we're in trouble.
We're in trouble.
Oh my gosh. It was unbelievable. And then they pad me out, right? Now I'm a quarterback. They give me lineman pads. They give me a helmet doesn't fit. And I have to hit the 7-man sled the first day of practice, which I had never hit in my life. And oh my God, was it embarrassing. So really, we never really had a passing game because there was no one else to catch it. So I ended up playing defensive end, safety, and offensive end. So that was the beginning of my sports out here in Baltimore.
Wow. Okay.
Yeah.
That's it.
Yeah.
It's funny that you, as a quarterback, remember the ball that you threw. I do too. I threw an R5, a Rawlings number 5. You remember those?
Yeah. I will tell you, the footballs that we had up in Huntington, boy, you could throw them a mile. They're a little bit smaller. They weren't the fat Duke type of football. They're a little bit sleeker, and you could really, get set in your hands and control. And they did have grain to them too. So
I agree. And there were different teams in our high school would use different balls. And back then, you didn't travel with your balls, except you would warm up with them, but you expected everybody to play with the same ball. Next thing you know, you're playing with some rinky-dink, rubber football. I'm like, oh my gosh, I can't throw this thing.
Some of them were like rugby balls. If you were a running game, you had a rugby ball. If you were a passing game, you had your R7.
That's right. That's exactly right. Yeah, that's interesting that you remember that, because I got the nickname R5 because I said I only want to throw the R5. That's it.
Yeah, you were a lefty too, right?
No, I was a righty.
Were you a righty?
Yeah.
Oh,
yeah.
Okay.
So righty, and it just it was a lot of fun, because you're right. As a coach at Butler, we had an assistant coach that was a part-time equipment guy for the Colts, and when the Colts went to the Super Bowl the first time, he got the call that Peyton wanted all of the balls that they were going to be using in the Super Bowl to be scuffed. Could we bring our 35 guys and 4 coaches out to the indoor and just throw these 98 balls or 96 balls around and kick them in and just scuff them up? And I remember putting my hand on that ball going, hey, this thing doesn't fit. My hand was not big enough, and I'm thinking I got a pretty good sized hand, but I couldn't grip it. and I couldn't throw it. I had a newfound respect for those guys that could do that. And when they sit there and they go, yeah, his fingers, to his palm are 8.5 inches, I was like, oh, good God.
Yeah, every one of them have those hands too, man. I can tell you. Matter of fact, I remember one time when I was pitching, a guy asked, one of the scouts asked me to put my hand up against his hand just to see how long my fingers work. So, it's big in baseball too.
Absolutely. It's like the longer it can stay on your fingers, the more movement you've got. So more chance for movement. So, my little stubby creatures here doesn't get it done, I guess. But
so you had to go hit home runs.
There it is. I became a hitter rather than a pitcher. That pitching thing didn't work out for me very good. I gave up some of the longest home runs my hometown have ever seen.
Yeah. Let me just tell you a funny story, unless you got another.
No,
question
go ahead.
for me.
No, go.
So it's during basketball season, right? Now you got to remember, Huntington High School was one of the powerhouses in lacrosse.
Okay.
And Towson High School was a powerhouse in Baltimore. Two of the probably top areas in the country that play lacrosse.
Okay.
And I didn't decide whether I was going to play baseball till ninth grade, and they didn't really have the type of development systems that Baltimore had for lacrosse. So, we were a baseball family. My dad was a great baseball player for Coward Hall. My brother got drafted by Cincinnati. So we were all, baseball guys. So when we go down to Towson, it's near the end of the basketball season, and the lacrosse coach, who was a icon in Baltimore County and Towson, giving the Criffle guy, Coach Thomas, he goes, "Hey, Hargest," he goes, "I got you as a midi, right?" And I said, "Coach," I said, I don't play lacrosse. I play baseball." And he starts yelling at me. He goes, "Damn it, Hargest. There's nobody comes from Huntington High School to Towson High School and plays baseball, for God's sakes. I expect you out on the field."
Oh, my
That's
God.
a God's honest truth.
Did you go?
Hell no.
Oh, man.
No. I went. This is a whole nother story, and I'll make it quick. But when I was a junior in high school, when I was a sophomore, I was a catcher. I caught my whole career as a catcher. As they switched my brother as a sophomore to a pitcher, and he did great. So my junior year, they switched me to pitcher, and got to be the number 2 guy as a junior and such. And so when we left and came back down to Baltimore, I'm going out for the baseball team, and the baseball coach knew my dad from high school. And, I was fortunate because we made the playoffs and such in basketball, and you have to sit down a week and such. They had baseball cuts where I even went out for the team, and I made the team strictly because of the relationship of the coach and my dad.
Yeah.
And so I went in as a pitcher because I just switched to pitcher as a junior. This is now my senior year down at Towson.
Okay.
And we had 2 other kids that pitched, and they both actually went on to UB and pitched at University of Baltimore. And I was third pitcher. And I'm like, and we had a horrible catcher. So after I had my second rotation, so we played 6 games, and we're 3-3, and the catcher can't throw anybody out, and it's just horrible. So I looked around. I knew we had another arm or 2 left in baseball, for pitching. And I went up to the coach and I said, "Hey, coach, why don't you let me catch?" I said, I can catch him. We're not going to win too many ball games with this catcher. And he said, "Well, get behind the plate. Let me see what you can do." So I get behind the plate. Pitcher, is throwing me a couple. I start throwing him down to second base. He looks at me and goes, "You're starting tomorrow." So now we've got some pretty good arms, and now we got a catcher that can throw. The thing with catchers, you can keep guys from stealing on you just by throwing. During practice, throwing good throws down to second base. So anyway, we hardly had any steals on us, and we ended up finishing up, making the playoffs, had a little run into playoffs, and we're done. So that summer, once again, I was transplanted from New York to Baltimore, and I really didn't have a lot of followings. And Coach Charlie Fields gave me a call, and he said, "Hey, listen, we'd like you to come over to Towson. We want you to," I think I made honorable mention catcher. and he was like, "Hey, why don't you come out? We'd like to come out for catcher. Here's the lineup. Here's the times and everything else. Just come on out in the field." And it was Division II back then. So I go there, and there's like 6 catchers, and I'm looking around, and at the time I was probably 6'1" and about $180, right? Maybe $185. And I'm like, geez, man, these guys are huge. And so after the second week, I went to Coach Fields. I said, "Hey, Coach," I said, "why don't you let me pitch?" He goes, "What do you mean? I thought you were a catcher." I said, "No, before I was a catcher, I was a pitcher. Then I was a catcher." So he says, "Get on the mound, let me see what you can do." And that's when I started my pitching career at Towson University.
Oh my goodness, man! What an interesting story. That's pretty cool.
So, yeah, I mean, it was obviously it's a transition, and back then there was JV, so I played 1 year as on JV, and got to learn somewhat about pitching and that type of thing, and then the next year was really more of a reliever than anything, but I think I got into about 21 ball games out of 28 or 29.
Wow.
And it was a ball. I never knew it was that much fun being a reliever. So, so anyway, and then a starter in junior and senior year.
And in '78, you guys went to the NCAAs, right?
Yeah, we had a great team in '78. We had, I think, a real good pitching staff. Myself and Mike Gilpin were 1 and 2. We had some other guys, and we had a good bullpen. Just all around good. We got a couple guys from Delaware. I think they're one of the junior colleges up in Delaware. One guy, Mark Edwards, became our shortstop, and he was an All-American shortstop. And the catcher, Bud Zebley, actually went to AAA. He was about 6'3", 6'4".
Woo!
He was a big boy. The only problem, Coach, I had an old A2000 Wilson, glove. It must have been 8, 9 years old. And if I shook him off a pitch, and I'm telling you, he would throw it back to me harder than I threw it to him.
Oh boy, I hear you.
But anyway, 79 was a great year. A lot of good memories. A lot of great guys. Listen to some of the podcasts. I listened to before. Those winning does certainly breed a lot of friendships and camaraderie on a baseball team. So I think we're maybe like 22 and 10, 23 and 10, something like that.
Yeah, it does speak volumes. The memories that you create when you win more than you lose are certainly special. Times have changed, certainly. I mean, it's a little tougher now. You're in a completely different arena. The CAA is a up and coming conference, and a lot of people sometimes forget that we're in one of the top 10 conferences in the country when it comes to baseball now. So, not saying that you guys weren't, but whew, man, this is
it's a completely different ball game than it from back then to now. I mean, everybody's kind of concentrates on baseball once you turn 14 or 15, and that's typically all the sports they play. They may play another sport in high school or such, but the sophistication of the AAU baseball teams and everything else that goes on is so much different than when I was growing up, and really Baltimore baseball. I mean, they had Johnny's. I played for a team called A&S Contractors, which is a pretty good team. But the way it's done now, and just listening to you and BJ talk, I could tell I was way out of my league when it came to the sophistication of baseball.
Wow, interesting. Well, and sometimes, Scott, I feel like I'm left out of baseball. It seems like it's shifting gears even more so now than it was 4 or 5 years ago. The analytical side is really starting to take over. I had the benefit of having some dinner with some people last night that are getting ready to do some incredible things regarding testing and things of that nature, where they can help you identify deficiencies in your athletes at a very, very young age, and just almost, I think of the $6 Million Man. What was the slogan? We can build him better, bigger, faster. And I'm sitting there going,
Yeah, right.
yeah, I'm just like blown away, and yeah, because I'm sitting there listening to these guys talk, and I'm saying, you can do what? And they're like, yeah, coach,
Yeah.
we can actually do this. So, anybody you want to send us over the summer, we'll send them back to you even more prepared. And I'm like, I honestly feel like baseball recruiting will turn into almost like you're going shopping on the internet, where it's look at this guy's spin rate, look at this guy's volume, look at this guy's velo, look at this guy's, all of that. And then when you want to see a player, you look at this and you look at his inward turn, his flexibility, his hip mobility, his ankles. And I'm like, oh my gosh.
Yeah. Well, the videos, I mean, look at golf. I mean, it's very similar to golf. I mean, heard you talk earlier on, the launch angles of, to hit home runs and whatever. And, obviously, I play a lot of golf, but, the launch angles, the trajectories, the ball speed, the club head speed, it's crazy.
Yeah. And it's all good stuff. I mean,
it is.
It really is good stuff, and you can take away so many things from that. And if you tailor make your game to your strengths, you should be successful, right?
Yeah, no question.
I agree. Well, then you graduate from Towson, you meet that beautiful wife, you've got an incredible opportunity started with Ironworks. Bring us up to date. Take us from, Towson through your life and do it, in 5 minutes.
Yeah, well, Patty and I, we started dating actually when I was a freshman in college and she was a senior in high school, and outside of a couple pit stops through college and such, because I was working really all the way through school. But when baseball season came around, cell phones weren't around, and I just wanted to concentrate on the, things I had to do, which is baseball, work, and school, and be honestly, the relationship or any kind of relationship was going to come in last because it was just too crazy back then. With those cell phones and such. Yeah. But when I graduated, I started working for a company called Moore Business Forms, which was one of the largest printing manufacturers in the world, which kind of cut my teeth in that industry. And in 1987, I started my own company, which we brokered print. And so we didn't actually manufacture it, but we had plants that we represented it. And we built that into, just a $3-4 million company. Then I broke off from my partner and started my own company. I was commuting down to Bethesda for the first 10, 12 years of that business. And then I was up in Hunt Valley for 10 years, which was great because I was, the kids were getting to the point where they were playing college ball. So it took a lot of time and effort to make sure we were on the sidelines. And both my son played lacrosse at Maryland. So in the 4 years that he played, they went to the semifinals 3 of the 4 years. And my daughter actually went to Towson University for her first semester. And I was driving around the Beltway going, man, how good is this? I got 2 kids that are going to state schools and playing in a high-level lacrosse and such. And then my daughter gave me that fateful phone call 4 weeks into the semester, and she said, Dad, if this is going to be the best 4 years of my life, it's not going to be here. Oh. And I'm like going, oh my gosh, I got Dr. Corrette, I got Dan McCarthy, I got, I'm like, how am I going to tell these guys that my daughter's going to leave for school? But fortunately for her, she had a great volleyball and lacrosse career at St. Paul's, and she got picked up at Franklin and Marshall. And when we sat down with that coach, we talked about her transferring to Franklin and Marshall, and the coach said, listen, I was only missing 2 spots last year, the goalie and Blake's goalie from St. Paul's. Her year already, decided to sign for up at Franklin and Marshall, and then I'm an attackman, and Blake was the attackman. Awesome. So the first, she goes, if you come here, I guarantee you we will be playing for a national championship. And first year they went 22-0 and won the national championship.
Look at that. That's outrageous. Yeah. Did not know that.
Yeah. And then she won national championship as a freshman and a junior. Lost in the finals as a sophomore, and then they lost in the first semifinal game her senior year. But she was National Attacker of the Year for Division III. So that was she had a great career, and you could definitely see how it impacted her personality and her confidence and such. So it ended up being a great move, and it's a great school. And from then she's done extremely well work wise. So it's great. As my son has. He actually went to the School of Business with a finance degree at Maryland. So both of them got great educations and were able to play a great sport through the school. Notice there was no baseball. Baseball wasn't mentioned around the house after Brent decided he was going to play lacrosse.
I tried to tell my daughter the same thing. She took her kids and moved to Switzerland for 3 years, and I had an opportunity to go over there and visit them for a couple times. And God love them. I'm trying to shy them away from baseball, and she's trying to force feed them into baseball, and I'm sitting there going, let them keep playing soccer and tennis.
Yeah, right.
Put a set of golf clubs in that boy's hands right now. Yeah,
get the golf clubs in there. That's a lifetime sport.
It is a lifetime sport, and no better time to learn it than when you're 6.
Yeah, because you know what it's like trying to learn it when you're 45.
We're not
and
going
and have grips that don't even have threads in them.
I knew you were going to go there.
You knew I wouldn't let that one go.
You're not going to let that one go. He took my driver out of my bag at the turn, gave it to the pro, and said, "Put a grip on this thing because I'm not going to let him play with this stick for another 9 holes." I was like, okay. Well, Scotty, you have turned into a very accomplished golfer, and you split some time now between Baltimore and Florida. So when will we see you again?
Well, I got a flight back May 4th. Because I'm a Florida resident, I got to get my 6 months in.
Right.
So that'll give me 4 solid months in, from January to the beginning of May. And then, in the fall, we pick up the other 2 months and such. And, last year was a little too much of a crunch to try and get it all in. But, listen, we're in Naples down here. I live on a golf course, play golf course 3, 4, 5 times a week. And, got to actually know a lot of great people down here. And then get the excitement of going back to Baltimore and playing a great golf course up there and seeing my friends from there for 30, 40 years. So I have a pretty good gig going right now.
That's fantastic. I know Will wants to ask you a quick question, so hang in there with us for a second.
Sure.
Will, Mike is yours, brother.
So what advice would you most give to your younger self that's just starting out? What piece of advice would you give your younger self that you've learned over the years?
Would that be in business or just as a person yourself?
Take your pick.
Yeah, either or.
Well, I have to say, for a person, obviously, you just have to be honest. Bull crappers come and go, but guys that speak the truth and are true to what they talk about and how they speak, it makes all the difference in the world. And my wife has been a great partner so far as raising our kids, and we're very proud of them. And that's one thing we always don't ever lie to us, and I think that will help you through no matter what business you're in, no matter what. That type of personality and honesty is something that'll always hold true.
Well, that sounds like a great answer. What do you think?
I completely agree. Honesty is something, especially with me studying journalism as well as, film and everything else that I've got going on. You have to be honest when you write. It's not something that you can easily just, make up or do anything like that. You have to be honest so that A, you're building your credibility, and B, you're showing people what's actually going on. I mean, there's so much, so many lies, so many falsehoods out there. That's just, you have to absolutely be honest, and it goes
I
beyond
think
writing.
yeah, I agree. I think it's the degradation of really this country is the lack of fair reporting on both sides. It's become political, and there's a lot of half truths spoken, and it's a shame. It's just become too political
I
on
completely
both
agree.
sides, really.
Great. Well, Scotty, thank you very much for taking the time out of your day to share with us. And ladies and gentlemen, Scott Hargest from Towson University. One quick question for you.
Go ahead.
You went to Huntington High School. Did you ever
Huntington High School.
remember meeting a family with the last name Syme?
Sign. Would that
S-E-I-M.
be? I'm 65, so where would that put them?
She would have been, when you were a senior, I would have been a junior, she would have been a sophomore. Priscilla Syme.
I have to go to the yearbook.
There you go, brother. Go to the yearbook.
Hey, Coach, listen, man, great talking to you.
Likewise.
Keep it going. You got
right.
a great spirit going, and I'm sure you guys will turn it around and have a great rest of the season.
We'll be in that conference tournament. Come see us. Talk to
That's
you
what I
guys.
love to hear.
Thanks, buddy. Have a great
All right,
week.
have a great night. All right.
You too. Bye-bye.
Bye now.
Hey, I'd like to thank everybody for tuning in this week. It's been a good week for us. I really enjoyed talking with Shane and to Scotty. And of course, Michael did the best job he could with creativity this week. I hate to bring him down, but such is life when you don't have a creative bone in your body. Listen, y'all be good this week. Be kind to one another. Do good and be good. And if you want to see and be the change in the world, don't be afraid to do that. Be the change. Be the change you want to see. Until we see and hear each other and talk to each other again, take care. Know that we love you. And happy Easter, everybody. Happy Easter. Take care.
Do you have any questions you wish for us to discuss? Anything you want to talk about? Feel free to email us at mtyner@towson.edu. That's mtyner@towson.edu or wpritch1@students.towson.edu. That's WPRICH1@students.towson.edu.